Hello and welcome to another episode of It Came From the Page. And you might think, this is probably a little bit early to have any takes on GARBAugust. We're only 3 days into GARBAugust. It can't have caused that much either exhalation or despair in your life. It's only been 2 days, really. This is the third day, and I haven't read anything. So this is just 2 days. I'm giving you an update on GARBAugust already, and I'm in 2 days. And you know why I'm giving you an update on GARBAugust, and it's only been 2 days? Because I DNF'd like half of the stuff I was going to read this week already. Yeah, so some things that I didn't know about myself is I hate men's adventure books. I didn't know this. I thought I liked it. I thought I was a fan of garbage. I don't think I am. And I definitely don't think I'm a fan of men's adventure books at all. So first off, let's just go through what I've DNF'd so far, and then we'll get into some actual reviews of some books I've read. First off, probably the least egregious one. This is Arthur Herzog's Earth Sound. It was just like about earthquakes. There's no man who was causing the earthquakes. It was just earthquakes. And it just seemed kind of lame, and just like half of the books was just going to be like outdated information about earthquakes. And the main character didn't seem that interesting. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I did check at the very last pages. I read the last few pages of this, and the cat does survive. So, gotta give some props to Arthur Herzog for keeping a cat alive. This book just bored the tears out of me, so I just put it down. Didn't really care. The other book that I DNF'd this week was Traveler Number 2. And I DNF'd this because it was so boring. You would think a post-apocalyptic adventure like this was going to be exciting and fun and interesting. No, it's actually just an excuse for people to talk about different caliber guns. I only got about 15 pages into this, and we hadn't even got through the first fight scene, and he literally just kept describing what caliber of guns he was using, the other people were using, what happens when you get hit by this caliber of guns. Oh, he also had this, and there was also more calibers, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm a Canadian. I do not care about your guns. I don't want to know about your guns. Just say a machine gun goes poopa poopa pew. I don't care. I don't need this thing about like, here's the caliber of the weapons I'm using, and he's got a cannon, and he salvages brass to make more guns. And I'm like, I don't care. How did I DNF this in the middle of a fight scene? It's that boring. It was also not very well written. So I was like, oof. Well, we're off to a great start here. We're off to such a good start because, hey, it's GARBAugust, and I decided I'm just going to get rid of all of my Traveler books because they are boring and I don't want them. So GARBAugust is going really well for cleaning out my bookshelves and making sure I know what's good and what isn't. So let's continue along the bad stuff that I read in this period. This one I actually read, so I gave this one a full shot. I should have DNF'd this, but no, I made the mistake and read the full thing. This is Dirty Harry number 3, which is a pulp series based on the Dirty Harry movies. Now, of course, Dirty Harry, just in general, is like, you know, a right-wing fascistic cop man. And I knew that going in, but I was like, well, I'm sure he'll just be like, it'll be like reading a Punisher story or something. That's kind of what I thought. Like, it just that same thing where you can go like, oh, I don't like the main character, but I can get into the action sequences, blah, 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 blah. And for a while, I'd say like maybe, I would say 30 pages, you can kind of get into it. There's a pretty interesting opening as far as like a woman who's kind of getting like kidnapped, and it just like goes really in depth and it's very weird, and you're like really interested in what is going on in this scenario. How is everything like happening and working out? And then you get your first action sequence with with Dirty Harry, and he's in this like aquarium fighting all of these guys, and like for a while, like it's fine, like it was fine, like it's okay, like it was okay. And then we started having people of other races show up, and the writer, Mr. Dane Hartman, had to specify every 5 seconds what race he was shooting at. All of the black people have afros, And there are quite a few black people in this movie, and they're either bald or they have afros. They're two hairstyles of all black people, according to this 80s pulp. And you're like, oh, that's already real bad. Like, I couldn't stomach it. And it's like, oh, this is so bad. And, like, literally, like, the man could walk down the street. And you only know the person is white if he doesn't specify their race. You stop it. Somebody should have just been like, stop it, you dumb. This is terrible. Terrible and racist. And then, of course, we get the reveal of the main villain of this book. And the main villain of this book, one of the main villains, there's like two main villains, but one of the main villains is a film teacher at a university, and they state that he's evil because he teaches Dario Argento films. That's not a joke. Like, we are supposed to be like, man, this guy, he's a bad apple because he reads and watches things about Dario Argento. And I'm like, you motherfucker, this motherfucking book is trying to, like, tell you that horror films and horror movies are bad and that it desensitizes the youth, when this book has things way more, one, problematic, two, completely disturbing than any horror movie I have ever seen, especially any of the ones they specifically mention. And, like, it's supposed to be like, there's like a scene where, like, the evil film professor goes like, oh, these are pretty funny. Some of these are pretty funny, seeing how this is patches. And then you, like, get this, like, and then Harry Callahan sneered and was like, you think this is funny? And I'm like, you are a dumbass. You are Dirty Harry and right-wing facetious fascist cops and media portraying them does way more harm to society as a whole than horror movies. Always has, always will. But even that aside, it is very weird for a book with some of the most disturbing sentences I may have ever read to have a moral high ground to really kind of decry media in general. There's a whole bunch of other things that are wrong with this book too. I'm just choosing that one particular point to be like, you come for the king. You come for the king of splatter. If you're going to come for Dario Argento, you're dumb. Don't come for Dario Argento. Dario Argento rules. Suspiria is great. Fuck you, Dirty Harry. So, hey, look at this. I own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I own 5 of these Dirty Harry pulp books because I thought they would be fun and silly and enjoyable. They aren't, so now I can get rid of these too. If you're counting, I've already got about 10 to 12 books already getting off of my chest because of GARBAugust. So I'm really, it's going great. It's going great so far. And then the first book I read, another 1-star. By the way, everything I've talked about that I read, aka the only thing I read was the Dirty Harry book. That was a 1-star. This one, also a 1-star. This is the Playboy book, Alien by George H. Leonard. And our main character is named Lauren Durkee. And I should have just stopped there. As soon as you open a book and the main character is named Lauren Durkee, you should have just stopped. But, this is one of those books that is terrible. Like, it's a bad book. And I only stuck with it because I wanted to see what they did with the aliens. Like, I wanted to see, what did you do with the aliens? What do the aliens look like? Do we get to see aliens? How does this go? And this book, I had forgot. I got excited when I started finding and buying Playboy Press stuff because I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it's because I think that in my head, I equated the, like, ethical smut of, like, the Long Arm series and, like, things of that ilk to be, like, what Playboy was. But then I remembered, like, oh yeah, old school Playboy is just, like, misogynist crap most of the time. It's, like, directed towards, like, 40-year-old men who are unemotionally available and blame all their problems on their wives. So it was not a fun read at all. And I don't even have that book with me because as soon as I read it, I had to get it out of this apartment. I had to get it out. I didn't want to look at this book ever again. So this is a book where a very rich man, pays to have, our character, Lauren Durkee, to go on an adventure, find UFOs, prove that UFOs exist so that he can get $1 million. So you're like, okay, cool. Let's see how this goes. Apparently, super easy to find aliens. They just need to go to certain locations and aliens just show up one day after another. So they go to a thing in Canada, and there is a South American country that they go to as well. South American countries, woof, they do not. I don't think Mr. Leonard ever went to a South American country. It's racist, is what I'm saying. It's very bad. Mr. Durkee is going on this adventure with this woman he met at this UFO meeting in the beginning. Apparently, this UFO meeting of all these people at that start out this book, like, Durkee is like I don't believe in aliens. They're poppycock and dumb. And they bring him to this meeting, and he goes, I'm at this meeting, and I think you're all dumb. And then he falls in love with one of the women at this meeting. And apparently all of the characters who, like, initially appear at this meeting were extremely important. And I just thought they were, like, throwaway characters when I read it. And I was like, yeah. This guy does this. I don't really care. And apparently that's really important because some of them are the villains, and a whole bunch of them, like, show up again and again and again, and you are supposed to know who they are. And I'm like, who is this guy again? And then I'm like, oh, he was one of those idiots at this meeting that is, like, was a waste of time to read. Essentially, like, he falls in love. Norman Durkee, who is married, by the way, he falls in love with this woman, and he, like, commits adultery the same way that other people just order coffee in the morning. And he is, like, drinking the coffee, aka committing adultery. And then the woman who's committing adultery with, during their adventure, has another one-night fling with another guy that they're with. And Lauren Durkee suddenly becomes, I can't believe that she did this. I'm so mad. And I'm like, Mr. Durkee, you're the cheater here. She is unattached. She is just chilling, living her life. And you're like, I can't believe that you cheated on me. Me, a cheater. A man who is evil and bad. I can't believe you did this. And she's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like, it's chill. But, like, the book is supposed to be like, don't you feel bad for Mr. Durkee? And then at the end, like, Durkee's like, I really should have just stayed with my wife. And that's, like, the main thrust of that. And you're like, oh my goodness. So, they need to prove that aliens exist. And the only way, they're Americans. So the only way that they can prove that aliens exist is with guns. Because, of course. So they want to take photographic evidence of the UFO. And apparently, in order to make it actually convincing, they need to have a machine gun and shoot the UFO with tracer bullets so that somebody who looks at the photo can see, oh, look, it's a bullet that hit this thing and bounced off. To which I'm like, you could have just used a flare. You could have done anything. Anything. But you're American, so of course you had to bring your fancy machine gun. So they do that once. The aliens get pissed off and, like, nearly kill them. So they have to go to Canada and hang out with the Canadian aliens. And the Canadian aliens they also shoot at, and the aliens get pissed and try to kill them later on. But of course, they're Canadians, so they're a bit more nice. They give you some time before they come and shoot you. And I'm like, he goes, Mr. Durkee comes to Canada, and he somehow gets a giant machine gun into Canada and is just roaming around these beautiful landscapes of, like, this northern Canada. And he's, like, entering the Canadian Shield area. And the only things that are good about this book is that George H. Leonard probably just copy and pasted some really nice things from a textbook somewhere that described the nature that was around. And the nature descriptions were quite good. Everything else sucked. And he, shows up with his machine gun and shoots the aliens so that he can get a piece off of their ship and then take it to this eccentric billionaire so that he can get $1 million. And along the way, you get every ists and isms that you can think of. It's just awful. Did not enjoy it. Thought it was bad and stupid. So, yeah. That's the story of everything I've read so far for GARBAugust. Whew. At least I'm cleaning the bookshelves.